Hello everyone. Welcome back to our subject EPDE 3113, the Effective Early Childhood Educator. This week we are going to look at Unit 7, Planning Effective Curriculum. Let's begin. Today, we are focusing on what you will gain from this unit on assessing children's learning and development. By the end of this unit, you will have the ability to define key assessment terms and understand why they're important in early childhood education. Pause for emphasis. You will learn how to explain the purpose and significance of assessing young children, which is vital for their development. We will also cover how to identify effective tools and practices for assessment, including observing and documenting children's progress. Finally, we'll discuss standardized testing, its appropriateness, and its limitations when it comes to young children. Pause to let the information sink in. This understanding is crucial in becoming an effective early childhood educator. Smile to engage the audience. Assessment is very important because it helps teachers understand children's learning and development. First, let us understand the meaning of assessment. Assessment means collecting information about children's learning, behavior, and development. Teachers use this information to understand what children already know and what they still need to learn. For example, teachers may observe children while they are playing, drawing, or talking with friends. Next, we have formative assessment. Formative assessment happens during the learning process. It is ongoing and helps teachers improve teaching activities immediately. For example, while children are doing an activity, the teacher observes them and changes the activity if children need more support. This helps teachers guide learning better. Another type is summative assessment. Summative assessment happens at a specific time, such as at the end of a lesson, month, or term. It is used to evaluate children's overall learning progress. For example, teachers may review children's portfolios or completed work at the end of the semester. The next concept is authentic assessment. Authentic assessment happens during real-life activities. This means children are assessed while they are naturally playing, exploring, talking, or working on projects. This type of assessment is very suitable for young children because it shows children's real abilities in natural situations. Lastly, we have standardized testing. Standardized testing is a formal assessment with fixed questions, rules, and scoring systems. However, in early childhood education, this method is less commonly used because young children learn differently and may not perform well in formal testing situations. Standardized tests may not always show children's true abilities. So overall, understanding these assessment terms helps teachers choose the most suitable and developmentally appropriate assessment methods for young children. Now let us discuss the purpose of assessment in early childhood education. Assessment is not only used to measure children's learning. It is also used to help teachers support children's growth and improve teaching practices. The first purpose is to guide instruction. Teachers use assessment information to plan activities that match children's abilities and learning needs. For example, if a teacher notices that some children are struggling with counting, the teacher can prepare simpler counting activities or provide more practice. Assessment helps teachers make better teaching decisions. The second purpose is to track development. Assessment helps teachers monitor children's progress in different developmental areas such as cognitive, social, emotional, physical, and language development. By observing children over time, teachers can understand how children are growing and improving. The third purpose is early identification. Assessment helps teachers identify developmental delays, learning difficulties, or special needs at an early stage. Early support is very important because children can receive intervention and assistance as soon as possible. For example, if a child has difficulty communicating, the teacher can inform parents and seek further support. Another important purpose is as a communication tool. Teachers share assessment information with parents to help them understand their child's learning progress and development. This strengthens the partnership between teachers and families. Parents and teachers can work together to support the child better. The final purpose is to support accountability. Assessment helps schools evaluate whether their programs and teaching methods are effective. Schools can use assessment information to improve the quality of education and learning experiences for children. So overall, assessment is very important in early childhood education because it helps teachers understand children, improve teaching, support development, and provide better learning opportunities for every child. Now let us discuss the indicators of effective assessment in early childhood education. Effective assessment means assessment that is useful, meaningful, and appropriate for young children. Good assessment helps teachers understand children better and support their learning. The first indicator is child-centered assessment. This means assessment should focus on the individual child's learning and development. Teachers should not compare children with each other because every child develops at a different pace. For example, one child may learn language skills faster while another child may be stronger in physical activities. The second indicator is ongoing assessment. Assessment should happen continuously over time, not only once. Teachers regularly observe children during daily activities and record their progress. This helps teachers get a more accurate understanding of children's development and learning needs. The next indicator is authentic assessment methods. This means children are assessed during real and meaningful activities such as play, projects, group work, and classroom routines. Young children learn best naturally through active experiences, so authentic assessment gives a better picture of their real abilities. Another important indicator is culturally sensitive assessment. Teachers must respect children's backgrounds, languages, cultures, and family experiences during assessment. For example, teachers should understand that children from different cultures may communicate or behave differently. Assessment should always be fair and respectful to every child. The final indicator is assessment used to inform teaching. The information collected from assessment should help teachers plan better learning experiences. Teachers use assessment results to decide what support children need and how to improve classroom activities. So overall, effective assessment should be child-centered, ongoing, authentic, culturally sensitive, and useful for teaching. When assessment is done properly, it becomes a powerful tool to support children's growth, learning, and development. Now let us continue to look at some effective assessment tools and practices used in early childhood education. Teachers use different assessment methods to understand children's learning, development, strengths, and needs. The first type is observation-based tools. These tools involve watching children carefully during activities and recording what they do or say. Examples include anecdotal records, running records, event sampling, and time sampling. For example, a teacher may observe how a child shares toys during playtime or how long a child stays focused on an activity. Observation helps teachers understand children in natural situations. The second type is performance tasks. These are activities where children show their learning through action. Examples include projects, role play, storytelling, experiments, and hands-on activities. For example, children may build a tower using blocks or perform a role-play activity to demonstrate communication and social skills. Teachers can observe children's thinking and problem-solving abilities during these tasks. Next, we have portfolios. A portfolio is a collection of children's work gathered over time. It may include drawings, writing samples, photographs, and teacher observations. Portfolios help teachers and parents see children's progress, improvement, and development over time. Another assessment tool is checklists and rating scales. Teachers use these tools to track developmental milestones and specific skills. For example, teachers may use a checklist to see whether a child can recognize colors, use scissors safely, or follow instructions. These tools help teachers organize assessment information clearly. Lastly, we have play-based assessment. This type of assessment happens during play activities. Since young children learn naturally through play, teachers can observe children's language, creativity, social interaction, and problem-solving skills while they are playing. For example, during pretend play, teachers can observe communication and cooperation between children. So overall, effective assessment tools help teachers collect meaningful information about children's development in natural, engaging, and developmentally appropriate ways. Now let us learn about different techniques for observation and documentation in early childhood education. Observation and documentation are important because they help teachers understand children's learning, behavior, and development. First, let us look at the observation techniques. The first technique is running records. Running records are continuous written descriptions of what a child is doing over a period of time. Teachers write everything they observe in detail. For example, a teacher may observe how a child plays with blocks for 10 minutes and record all the child's actions and conversations. The second technique is anecdotal notes. Anecdotal notes are short notes about specific incidents or behaviors. Teachers only record important events. For example, a teacher may write a note when a child successfully shares toys with friends for the first time. The next technique is time sampling. Time sampling means teachers record behaviors at specific time intervals. For example, every 5 minutes, the teacher records whether the child is focused during an activity. Another technique is event sampling. Event sampling focuses on specific behaviors whenever they happen. For example, a teacher may record every time a child shows aggressive behavior or helps a friend. Now let us move to documentation methods. The first method is learning stories. Learning stories describe children's learning experiences in story form. They explain what the child did, what the child learned, and why the experience was important. The second method is using photographs and videos. Teachers take pictures or videos during activities to document children's participation, skills, and interactions. Another method is work samples. These include children's drawings, writing, art projects, and worksheets. Work samples help teachers see children's progress over time. The final method is digital portfolios. Digital portfolios are online collections of children's learning records, photographs, videos, and work samples. They make it easier for teachers and parents to review children's development. One very important principle in observation and documentation is to be objective and consistent. Teachers should record facts carefully without personal judgment and connect observations to children's developmental goals. Overall, observation and documentation help teachers plan suitable learning experiences and better support children's development. Now let us discuss the appropriateness and limitations of standardized testing in early childhood education. Standardized testing means using formal tests with fixed questions, instructions, and scoring systems for all children. First, let us look at the appropriateness, or the positive uses, of standardized testing. The first advantage is that standardized testing can provide benchmarks for developmental milestones. This means teachers and schools can compare children's development with expected developmental standards. For example, the test may help identify whether children are developing language or cognitive skills at an expected level. The second advantage is that standardized testing can help identify children who may need further evaluation or support. If a child shows difficulty in certain areas, teachers may suggest additional assessment or intervention. Early identification can help children receive support as soon as possible. Another advantage is that standardized testing provides data for policy and program evaluation. Schools and education authorities can use the results to evaluate educational programs and improve teaching quality. However, standardized testing also has several limitations. The first limitation is that tests may not reflect children's actual abilities. Young children may feel stressed, shy, or uncomfortable during testing. Some children may not understand the test setting or instructions. Cultural and language differences may also affect performance. The second limitation is that focusing too much on scores may overshadow holistic learning. Early childhood education is not only about academic skills. Children also develop social, emotional, creative, and physical skills that may not appear in test results. Another limitation is that standardized tests are less effective in measuring creativity, problem-solving, and socio-emotional development. These important skills are usually better observed during play and real-life activities. Therefore, the best practice in early childhood education is to use standardized testing carefully and only when necessary. Teachers should combine it with authentic, continuous, and observation-based assessment methods to get a more complete understanding of children's development. Now let us conclude today's topic about assessing children's learning and development. First, we learned that assessment is very important in early childhood education. Assessment helps teachers guide teaching, support children's development, and build strong partnerships with families. Through assessment, teachers can better understand children's strengths, needs, and learning progress. Next, effective assessment should use different methods together. Good assessment practices combine observations, documentation, portfolios, and play-based assessment tools. These methods help teachers collect meaningful information about children in natural learning situations. Young children learn best through active experiences and play, so assessment should also happen naturally during activities. We also discussed standardized testing. Standardized tests can provide useful information, but they should be used carefully. Teachers should not rely only on test scores because tests may not show children's full abilities, creativity, emotions, or social skills. Therefore, standardized testing should always be balanced with authentic assessment methods. Overall, effective assessment is not only about measuring learning. It is about supporting children's growth, improving teaching practices, and helping every child reach their full potential. As future early childhood educators, it is important for you to choose assessment methods that are fair, meaningful, developmentally appropriate, and supportive of holistic child development. Thank you everyone for your attention and participation today. In this unit, we learned about the importance of assessment in early childhood education, different assessment methods, observation and documentation techniques, and the strengths and limitations of standardized testing. I hope this lesson helps you better understand how assessment supports children's learning and development in meaningful and developmentally appropriate ways. As future early childhood educators, always remember that assessment is not only about measuring children's abilities, but also about supporting their growth, understanding their needs, and helping every child succeed. Thank you, and I hope you have gained useful knowledge from today's lesson.